Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the live 49ers Mailbag. It is Tuesday. You know what's happening. We go through your questions here on the show. Very excited to get into it. We are headed towards week 1, ladies and gentlemen. The regular season is on the horizon. In the very near future, I will be boarding a plane out to Chi-Town, going to Chicago, going to be in attendance at the game. Very excited to hit a bunch of road games this year, to get into real football action. I have decided that I believe I will continue to go to road games so long as the active win streak continues. If my presence at games is influencing the outcome, I may just have to go to every single road game this season. Headed to Chicago, already have Denver on the books, and then we'll just see from there. Right now, I'm planning on 6 road games. Very excited to get into it. All right, let me explain this show for anyone that is new to the program. If you are joining, as are those that are here in the chat, want to recognize everyone that participates in this mailbag. Appreciate it. If you're here in the chat, the way to participate is type in at Rob or at Rob Schuh and ask your questions at any point in time. I will continue to go through the chat and answer your mailbag questions live off the cuff. But I also have a list of previously submitted questions that people sent in either via Twitter, following me on my Twitter handle right there above, or at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Either way, if you have a previously submitted question that you're waiting to hear the well thought out answer to, or if you've got the off-the-cuff questions, go ahead and put those there in the chat. I do want to take a moment to say hello to everyone that is here with me in the chat. Dan Rostek, Sneakerhead, here on the channel saying, "What's up, Rob?" and everyone. Chris Royal, also a Sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in to say, "Let's get it." We're getting closer to game time, Chris. It is getting real close. Mr. O Light coming in, Sneakerhead here on the channel saying, "Let's go." We got a lot of people who are fired up. Spy Nick Danger, Go Niners. Darren Worthington asking, "What's up, fellas?" John B in the house. Hey, folks, glad to be here. I'm off to Star Wars trivia soon, but I'm looking forward to seeing the dialogue. Put your Star Wars questions in. I'm kidding. I probably won't be able to answer the Star Wars questions. Maybe I will. What's up to Jason Walsh? We've got Terror Dome, Raphael 5629er, Swan Song, Darren Worthington. A lot of these guys I already called out. Charles Alt. Let's see. Earn. We got Earn. Is it Earn or is it Big Earn? Big Earn McCracken. All right, we got Robert Lopez, Tim Brown, USMC, hashtag 49er, The Fonz, 2011, Melvin Crediford, James Schaefer, Luke Walsh, and Invading Robots. Again, any of you that are here in the chat right now, please feel free to ask questions related to Chicago, week 1, any situation going on with the Niners. Are you curious about what kind of food I might be eating when I'm in Chicago? Whatever your questions are, we will definitely throw it in there. Saying what's up to my man, Luke Walsh, coming in. Appreciate everybody in the chat. All right, so I'm going to start off with a previously submitted question. Gives you time to put in your current questions here in the chat. I see them rolling in, and I appreciate them. This one comes in from John B., and it is your betting advice for week 1. You want it, you got it. All right, so the question, John B. comes in. You taking the over on the Niners -7 against Chicago. All right, let me just say, first and foremost, admittedly, I am worried about this one. You may ask yourself, why? Rob, you're the eternal optimist. You're always predicting the 49ers to win. Why would you be worried about the 49ers -7? So here it is. Most games in the NFL are decided by 1 score or less. As of 2016, it was about 60% of games, 6 out of 10. It has gotten even higher since then. But this is not a normal game. This is an elite defense against an offense that I believe is bereft of talent, with a young quarterback who's shown that he's prone to mistakes at times. For the 49ers, on offense, you might just say to yourself, hey, the storyline is that Trey is going to struggle early. And I say to you, so what? So what if he does? What if Trey does struggle early? This offense, headed up by the play calling of Kyle Shanahan and his ability to cover up deficiencies. We've seen it time and time again. Look back to 2019, where he's able to overcome the absence of 2 starting tackles. But Kyle will be able to lean on a very strong run game this year with an offensive line that may be rough around the edges. But if you're going to give them one compliment, it's that they certainly can run block. If they have a strength, it is going to be that right now, even with question marks in the center of the line, question marks at right tackle with Mike McGlinchey's health. I believe that this offense can absolutely give us a big time advantage, even if Trey does come out and struggles a little bit. I would anticipate that Fields does rip off a couple of big plays. He's got a cannon for an arm, certainly got the wheels, might get outside of contain, but I also see a pick six coming in this one. So my answer is I am absolutely smashing the over on this bet, just like you should be smashing the freaking like button right now if you're watching this video. I'm taking the over on it. I know that the vast majority of games are decided by 7 points or less, and it is a big difference to be -6.5 versus -7. The largest number of games in the NFL end with the score separated by 7 points. It's like 15% of games end with a 7-point differential. And so it's huge. A big difference between 6.5, -6.5, and -7, but I'm still taking it. Still going to take it. I am faithful. I am faithful in this one. All right. I want to see your reactions to my predictions, and I want to get to your questions as well. So again, hit me with @Rob or @RobSchuh when you're talking to me, so I know it's a friendly question and not the great back and forth that I always support in the chat as well. Swan Song here, sneakerhead on the channel. Rob Schuh, will the 49ers community even exist when Sunday comes around? I can't guarantee anything, Swan Song. I can't even guarantee if I'll be alive on Sunday, so I can't vouch for the rest of the faithful. I tend to think, though, that yes, I'll be in Chicago, and the rest of the faithful will be just fine. So you got my prediction on the outcome of the game. Now you've got my prediction on us all making it to Sunday, staying with the optimistic trend. Spy Nick Danger coming in to say, hit the like button. He's actually yelling it. I just went low key on that because I didn't want to blow out any eardrums. Would have been a loud order. Here we go. Darren also smash that like button. We love Rob. Appreciate you, Darren. Appreciate you. All right, Big Earn. Let me know if you're offended by Big Earn, because that's just one of my favorite movies. Woody Harrelson, Bill Murray. I mean, come on, Big Earn. All right, so Ern's in here. Rob, do you go to road games alone or do you book your seats with a buddy? If you go alone, is it enjoyable? I do both. Certainly have done both. I have traveled in the past with significant others. I have absolutely gone with best friends. I have a buddy who unfortunately is a Dallas Cowboys fan. We went out to Texas to mark off the Dallas Stadium. Have a best friend who's a Steelers fan. Again, very unfortunate. He and I attended a Steelers game. Thankfully for the Dallas game, which meant more as far as trouncing the other team, we did beat them. That was the game, season opener. That was, oh God, who was the safety? Eric Reed, who had a bunch of turnovers. I think he had 2 picks in that one. We had a bunch of turnovers early. It was a blowout. It was great. Absolutely great to beat the Cowboys. I have gone to a lot of games alone. I mean, I've certainly gone growing up, went with my brother and my dad. I've been to several games since with my brother, went to the 2012 Super Bowl with my dad. I will say, couldn't get anyone to bite on the crazy expensive seats for the Super Bowl in 2019. Did go to that game. Admittedly, the outcome was horrific, very painful. And I absolutely still do find it enjoyable. I like my own company. I tend to think I'm a great guy to spend time with. And I love people watching. Games are a great time to do both. And you're surrounded by fellow fans. It's so easy to make friends. It's even easy to make friends with opposing fans when you are capable of being a nice individual, as again, I tend to think that I am. So yes, I do both and I enjoy both. And I encourage others to do both as well, because you can get some really smoking deals on single ticket sales on StubHub. Wait until the last minute. There's 1 seat available. Boom, you get 50-yard line seats for the price of nosebleeds. Raphael 5629ers. I'm giving away all my secrets. What am I doing here? It's craziness. Raphael 5629ers, sneakerhead here on the channel, says, Rob, hot take, Debo throwing a touchdown on Sunday. If I'm taking the over or the under on that one, I am taking the under, but I like the creativity of the idea. I do think, and I'll get to this answer a little bit later, that there will be some vanilla aspects to this offense coming up against Chicago. I think that's what's prudent coming up against a team that is less talented than yours, with a defense that should be able to swarm. I don't know that we will need to have trick plays, but if there were one, I would like it to be from Debo. USMC 49er. Rob, going to North Carolina and Atlanta. Let's follow these guys. Absolutely. I am locked in on Atlanta. And again, if we keep winning, I'll be going to NC as well. The Fawns 2011. Rob, you think Shanahan will replace Trey Lance if he struggles? No, I do not. I think it has to get really ugly in there to replace him. By the way, Tim Brown, what's up, family? What's up to you as well? But that was a mistake to take this comment off the screen. Back to that, no, I think it will be for injury only, again, unless it completely goes off the rails, which I just do not see as a possibility. I don't see as a likely possibility. Sorry, let me clarify that. James Schaefer, Rob, hot out of the gate, bro. I came in hot on this one. I had a lot of energy. All right, Invading Robot says, hello from Canada, eh? Oh, hello from Canada, eh? Finally, some real football this weekend. Take off, you hoser. I watched Strange Brew way too many times as a child, and that is my take on the Canadian language and use of phrases. So please forgive me for the takeoff hoser. I can't get Strange Brew out of my mind. Yes, real football is coming up, and I cannot wait. Saying hey to Luke Walsh and EMA Beats coming in the building. Ryan Anthony, Rob, 49ers really haven't done well against mobile quarterbacks. What are your thoughts? Yes, we have allowed them to get outside, particularly Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa struggle a little bit with contain. I would say Eric Armstead more so. Jack and I were talking about this on his program, and he indicated not as much of an issue moving Eric inside. You now have his length as an interior pass rusher, an interior defender, and you're able to have a better contain on the end. Samson Ebukam obviously sliding out there. I do believe that we will see Justin Fields get outside of this unit at least once and break a long scamper. All right, EMA Beat says, Rob Schuh, is Robbie homesick this Sunday or not? Robbie Gold is definitely homesick. He loves Chicago. That dude can't talk enough about that city. Spy Nick Danger says, Rob, if the 49ers lose, what side will be more responsible, the offense or the defense? The defense, because the responsibility lies with the defense to me. They are so talented. Chicago is lacking talent. It's a combination for this defense to be elite. And if they're not, I will find issue with that. EMA Beats back in. I call 4 sacks on Fields. What's your take? I love it. I'm predicting a large number of sacks on the year, 57 to be precise. I'll get into the sacks in just a little bit. I love kicking it off with 4. Let's see. 4 times 17 would be 68 sacks on the year. If they could do that week in, week out, I'll take it. I only need 57. All right. Terror Dome says, Rob Schuh, why didn't ferociously pursue recently released true free safety Anthony Harris with Jimmy Ward being short-term IR? We need a playmaker. A serious solution would have been problematic because that type of player doesn't want to just fill in for 4 games. They want to be able to step into a role they can own for the entirety of the season. So you're a bit hamstrung with Jimmy Ward's hamstring injury. Pun intended there. He's only out, hopefully, for the first quarter of the season. So you just need to fill in for that. Looking at the schedule, first 2 are easy, second 2 much more challenging. I'd say that it's not necessary to go out and get top-tier fill-in. You just need more of a Band-Aid, high-quality Band-Aid, but a Band-Aid nonetheless. John B. Rob, counter to Chicago, elite defense is no Mac, and this 49er team is better than the 2020 team that beat Chicago by double digits. I'm saying we are smashing that over. I'm taking it. EMA Beats, Rob Schuh, who has got a better ground game, pass game in this one? Ground game goes to the 49ers, and certainly the pass game should as well. Significantly favors the 49ers with the skill position players. If you match up Chicago's skill position players, where they really only have one potential wide receiver threat, and then the 49ers, who are deep. EMA Beats, Rob Schuh, how many turnovers in the air do we have? I'm predicting that pick 6. I say we pick up another pick. So I'm saying 2 interceptions on this one, just off the cuff. You like it? All right, here we go. At Schuh, I see that icon usage there come on Friday. Says, biggest concern for you heading into the season, minus defense, back end, minus Ward. Thoughts? That is a solid concern. I have to say right now that mine still lie along the offensive line and how cohesive that unit is going to be. I have a question that came in before the show that I'm going to get into a little more depth on it. So stick around. You'll get greater information on that one. James Schaefer. Rob, what percentage of incomplete passes by Trey were catchable in your opinion as a starter? That's tough to say. I'd have to go through and count those up, and I don't have the stats in front of me. I do think that an NFL wide receiver has a fairly high expectation for bringing those balls down. So you got to split that responsibility in a catchable pass versus being the receiver and just making the catch. Manly Shaver says, Rob, shout out from Texas. Let's go Niners. And I think Trey is ready, because if he wasn't, why would Kyle put the future in Trey's hands? Yes. And all this to the people saying that Kyle didn't want Trey. You really believe a strong-willed coach like Kyle Shanahan would bring in a guy that he didn't want as quarterback? I don't. EMA Beats, Rob Schuh, do we win by 10 plus or less than 10? I've called over 7. More than 10 is a very wide margin of victory. But yeah, I'm going to say that I'd say that we win by 11. I'm just going to throw it out there. 11. Danny Young, Rob, who scores the first touchdown for the 49ers? Let us say Jeff Wilson Jr. M. Ramalho, Rob Schuh, who do you think will be the complimentary back to Mitchell against the Bears? Jeff Wilson Jr. We got 2 in a row for JWJ. Joey Huff, Rob, is this not the longest offseason in faithful history? Yes, it is, and it's killing me. Chris Royal with the super chat. Sneakerhead here on the channel says, thinking of doing a live stream at the stadium. I am, and I want to go into the parking lot. I want to interview 49ers fans. I want to look at the pregame stuff that's going on. Want to incorporate more this year as far as making it feel like you guys are a part of that game day experience. Super Bowl bound. Rob, is your brother older or younger than you, and does he look like you? Yes, he's older than me, and he does look like me. For a while, I didn't think it, but people tend to say that they do think that we look alike. James Schaefer, Rob, if you have that issue again going solo, hit me up, bro. I got you. James, I appreciate that. Honestly, I don't mind going solo. I really enjoy myself. I make friends at the game. It's quite delightful. But I appreciate the offer and absolutely would be happy to meet up with anybody at a game. Charles Alt coming in. Rob, let's go. Football this week. It's finally here. Let's get this dub. I hope to see you here in North Carolina. I hope so too, because that means the Niners are on a win streak. Let's see. Luigi Jamibez says Marcelino and Demetrius picking off Justin Fields. Hey, I'm telling you, if you got a couple of backup linebackers in there picking off Justin Fields, I'll take it. All right. I am, says Rob. What's your pick for Thursday's game? That is a good question. Let me see what the spread is real quick. Get on over to CNFL. Let's see if they've got the spread up here. Buffalo against the Rams. Where's the spread? Gamecast. I mean, I got a buddy who's a Bills fan. We were just talking about this. I think they are poised to have a year. The Rams are going to have that Super Bowl hangover. I'm taking the Bills in this one because to hell with the Rams is really the answer there. To hell with them. G-Bone Patron says, shoe time for homemade deep dish pizza yet? Keep up the hard work. Good vibes like usual from this way. Deep dish in this household is typically on Christmas Eve, but I might have to make some for Chicago just to eat that deep dish to show them how we roll. EMA Beats says, Rob Schuh, love it. Let's go. Thanks, champ. You're welcome. Anytime. All right, John B with the prediction. Womack scores the first touchdown on the pick 6. That's who I think is getting the pick 6. I have it in my notes later. You're stealing material from me here, John, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I do think that Womack snaps up that pick 6. Danny Young says, Rob, can't wait to see the Bills beat up on the Lambs. I'll take it. Absolutely, we'll take it. All right, I'm going back into the previously submitted questions. If you are here live in the chat, first and foremost, I appreciate you because the chat is going off right now, and I always love that vibe. But if you want to put in a question that's directed at me, just type in @Rob at the beginning of it. I will know you're talking to yours truly. All right, let's go to the next previously submitted question. This one coming in from the notorious GAV, who hails from Wales. I like that rhyme. That hadn't even occurred to me until just then, Gav. I hope you heard that one or will hear that one when you wake up tomorrow. Speaking of waking up, he says, are people sleeping on Kerry Hyder? Yes, I'm full of pun energy at the moment. And I would say, yeah, they are a little bit. They realize, people know that Kerry Hyder has production when paired with Chris Kosarik. But it is fair to wonder, hey, is Hyder going to be able to continue making magic in the bottle each time he's paired with Chris Kosarik, and in particular when he's paired with the 49ers defensive line unit? But the secret to his success, in my humble opinion, is not actually that big of a secret. He's got that nonstop motor. And when you put that into the right scheme fit, like in San Francisco or in Detroit when they were running their wide nine back in 2016, and then you surround it with mega talented players to complement Kerry Hyder, it absolutely feels like a recipe for success in my book. So when I look at that logic, I say to myself, he could repeat yet again. I think he may be able to bring back the efficiency of his 2020 effort, but I have to say he will probably get fewer snaps due to the deeper line and therefore fewer stats coming out of it. The 2 seasons he shared with Chris Kosarik in 2016 with Detroit and in 2020 with the Niners, he got 8 and 8.5 sacks respectively. I'd say my prediction is going to be somewhere around 5.5 sacks this year. Only 3 players surpassed that total last year. In 2020, the only player to surpass that total was Kerry Hyder with 8.5. So that result would be phenomenal. And it's those role players like Kerry Hyder that are going to get the defense to 57 total sacks on the year and the NFL sack title for 2022, as I have correctly predicted. That is what Kerry Hyder is going to do. And yes, I would say do not sleep on him. All right, coming back into the comments to get to your questions live. Again, hit me with the @Rob. Ryan Anthony coming in to ask this. Says, Rob, if you get the chance to talk to Trey Lance, give him your number for your barber. He needs to let that hair go. Oh, cheap shots at Trey Lance's hairline. That's cold. It does get some flack. And I will say, I'm a fan of embracing it. Embrace it. You get what you get. Life is fair sometimes and unfair at others, but hell, bald is sexy if you ask me. So yeah, I don't have a barber. I take care of all this and all this myself. You can't trust this type of perfection to any other individual. I need to look at it. I'm contemplating writing my own book at this point, Zen and the Art of Beard Maintenance. Yes, I've stolen it from Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, but the theory is much the same, and you treat the beard much like you do a bonsai tree. It's a very, very interesting process. It keeps you centered, meditating at all times. We'll get into it on another show. Let's get to the next question. Moses Martinez, OG 49er 559, says, Rob Schuh, how's it going? It's 115 in the city I'm at. Power is out due to the heat, but still watching your show. Moses, I hope that the phone or the tablet does not melt in your hand. That's uncomfortable. Most heat I've ever been in. I spent a lot of time in Vegas, having to go there for business travel. And yeah, I was definitely in 110, 110s. But I believe the hottest I ever felt was back in the early 2000s, Stockton, California. It was 117 on the Bank of Stockton sign right there on Pacific Avenue by Dillard's. It was around back in the early 2000s, and I about melted, about died. It just is unbearable. Moses, you have my deepest of sympathies. It is warm here, but power is still on, and I'm sitting in the AC, as evidenced by the fact that I'm wearing a hoodie, Moses. So my deepest of sympathies as I'm sitting here in my warm clothing. Feeling for you. Yao Feel Me says, Rob, what's your opinion of Peter King and him saying Trey will be benched by week 7? These negative national storylines are killing me. Right before the show, I just watched Colin Cowherd talking about Trey Lance and how he was miffed when he found out that the 49ers had re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo and how the most pressure was on Trey Lance and that it was a poor situation the 49ers were putting him into. The dude's in a phenomenal situation. Aside from the pressure, aside from us as the fans potentially saying something stupid and calling for Jimmy G at the first sign of trouble in the stadium, besides this national narrative that, quite honestly, I don't buy into all of the time. Besides those factors, it's an ideal situation for Trey Lance. And if someone has the mental makeup to make it through all of that pressure that is being added onto the situation, I do believe that Trey is that guy. Everything that I've seen from him to this point directs me to the conclusion that he's capable of handling it. And you know what? If he isn't, we'll deal with it when we get to that point. And we do have Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster. I know we have a lot of passionate feelings, good and bad, about Jimmy Garoppolo. I think we can all agree we would rather hand the team over to him than Nate Sudfeld if it ever came down to handing it over to somebody. Darren Worthington coming in to say, Rob, make sure you hit up the Irish pubs whilst you're there, brother. It's a special thing to experience. Keep up this awesome content. Darren, I appreciate that. Any recommendation of a specific place to try out? Would love to get a little, I got my Irish blood running through these veins. It is, that's where I get this fair skin and a little bit of orange tint to the beard. My Irish and Scottish bloodlines. Any recommendations are welcome, Darren. Blake Murray coming in. Rob, who you got leading in interceptions this year? I don't know why, but I believe it will be Mosley. Mosley's a great one, but I also would say keep your eye on the man, the myth, the legend, Sam Womack, Blake. I got my eye on it, and I will be talking about Sam Womack in just a moment with a previously submitted question. Melvin Crediford coming in. Rob, I see a big area of concern. Dante Pettis has us in his sights. He's going to put the team on his back. 3 receiving touchdowns. Nah, he's going to do the cat dance or Thriller. It was Thriller that he did, and every now and then he does the licking his paw on the TD celebration. Let's not see the lick the paw, clean the head celebration. No TDs for Pettis. I have no ill will towards the man, though. I feel bad in the way he was treated here on the way out. Always feel bad when people are disrespected that are Niners. EMA Beat says, Rob Schuh, name that running back that many forgot to consider when in a pinch. Hint, hint, what you got on my 40, homie? Debo. When you're in a pinch, give it to Debo. He'll win. James Schaefer, Rob, 106 in Cali right now. Hurts to watch you in that hoodie. My bad. It is chilly. I had to throw on an extra layer. I'm kidding. It is hot out here too, but I just keep my AC cranked. Chris Royal, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in, says Bosa smashes the record with 24 sacks this year. I've got him at 20 and a half. I just predicted that on Jack's program yesterday. I love this prediction even more, Chris, because that gets me ever so much closer to my prediction of 57 sacks total for the entire team at that point. All right, we're going to come back into the chat to get to the remainder of your current questions, your live questions that you're putting in, which I love, which has been fantastic. If you think to yourself, I'm in the chat, but my question is dumb, I say malarkey. There are no dumb questions. Throw that thing in there. Watch me make fun of it. Watch me make it into something funny. Watch me get creative. Just try to, stump the host. I'm kidding. Please don't try to stump the host. I don't want to fumble live on air. That's not fun. I like being quick-witted. All right, let's get to the next question. Let's get back to the banners. Look at that. I got one up already, but this one's from Dan R. It says, for the whole season in general, what's a bigger concern, the interior O-line or the health of McGlinchey? Okay, Dan, personally, I'm going to say that the panic level around the interior line is too high for my comfort, for my taste. We've seen an overreaction to the result of the final preseason games. Being down both tackles is, in my book, a huge disadvantage for the entire line, particularly when one of those tackles is the best in the league. Trent Williams, my gut says the interior O-line is going to look far better if the starting tackles are out there. But therein lies the conundrum. That brings us to the Mike McGlinchey problem. Admittedly, this is one that I may be overreacting to, much like I'm saying others are overreacting to the interior offensive line. But injuries in the Niners have given me PTSD, ladies and gentlemen. I have post-traumatic stress disorder when it comes to injuries and the 49ers. You want to see it? Just go look at my video. Like, very beginning of the channel, there was that day where we had the 2 injuries last year during camp, Justin School and Tavarius Moore, and I had to go out and sit by the river and contemplate what life meant while I talked about the injuries for the 49ers. Go back and watch that video. You want to see how much PTSD I have around injuries. So all I'm going off of with regard to Mike McGlinchey and what I say I'm overreacting to is one short clip where Mike just came back to practice after the platelet-rich plasma injection that he had on the knee, and it's 1 rep, but there's a hitch in his giddy-up. I mean, he has a pronounced limp for just a moment, like the knee doesn't feel right. That in combination with the pickup of the new lineman, probably unrelated, but I will say if McGlinchey misses significant time, that's a huge concern for me. So of the 2, between the interior O-line and McGlinchey missing time, I am on the side of being more concerned about McGlinchey missing time. Coming back in with a question from John B. This one says, who's your week 1 breakout player on offense and defense aside from Lance or Bosa? So we took out the obvious choices, which I appreciate, John. You're making it a little more difficult on me. And that's, I like a challenge. So offense, George Kittle. Here's to George. I think that Kyle might keep the passing game, and I alluded to this earlier, might keep the passing game more vanilla and conservative to start the season. Don't get me wrong. He's going to have some deep shots in there. He's going to have some creativity in there, which is why I got on board with the idea of Deebo Samuel maybe tossing a touchdown pass. But I think they will be the types of shot plays, the types of deep shots that are high percentage deep shots with very little risk, and they'll be few and far between. I would expect the shorter passing game to be favored. And that could lend itself towards Kittle, Deebo, maybe even Jawan Jennings. I'm saying here that Kittle's more of the focus because tight ends have been getting the love through camp and through preseason. So I'm just betting that trend continues early on in the season. And I have George Kittle as a 1,000-yard receiver in 2022. I think he's fantastic value in fantasy football. Just my 2 cents. On defense, speaking of the hot hand, I'm going with my dog, Sam Womack. Talked about it earlier. Gave credit where credit is due. People talking about Sam Womack in the chat. He's been on fire through the preseason. Corner is absolutely a position that thrives with confidence. And right now, I'm going to say that Sam Womack is the most confident rookie on the frickin' field for the 49ers. And hell, he has earned that confidence through his play, both in practice and in the preseason games. I've called a pick 6 in this one. Not going to be surprised if it is Womack. As I said, had that one in my notes. I appreciate that John B was putting it in. And this question does, in fact, come from John B. So, John, you and I are on the same page. Got the answer to your question here. All right, we got more questions coming up in the previously submitted ones, but I want to get caught up in the chat. So let me get to those. That are talking to me in the chat. Give me just 1 second to see where I left off. Here we go. EMA Beats. Oh, man, the Central Valley. I think Sacramento is still the Central Valley. He says it's 114 in my city of Sacramento. We are barbecuing out here in the sun. Get some. Hey, enjoy the heat. One of the recommendations that I have read up on, which seems completely contrary to logic, but kind of makes sense. Drinking hot liquids when it's hot out. If you go to places in the world where it is hottest, they do drink a heck of a lot of tea. And there's something to the idea of imbibing a hot beverage. It raises your core temperature, and thus the difference between your core temperature and the exterior temperature is lessened, and it feels less hot because the difference, the delta between your temperature and the temperature outside is less. So you feel the heat less. Crazy, but seems logical to me. Danny Young coming in here. Rob, how many forced fumbles will we have this year? I don't know. What's a reasonable number of forced fumbles? 12? That's a lot. 11? 10? Somewhere in that neighborhood. 10 to 12, the off-the-cuff answer. Danny, just out of nowhere, because I am calling a significant number of interceptions. Let's say for total turnovers, somewhere in the 30s for the Niners. That's what I'm feeling. People are feeling the temperature. You can see the temperature comments coming back in. Tim Brown says, Rob, do you think Shanahan keeps the throttle down to win games? Early on, no. I expect some vanilla play calling. I expect what appears to be conservative. And I think we will see as a result, some close ball games. Could be the case in Chicago. If we allow one too many large plays for Justin Fields, the game might be a hell of a lot closer than we want it to be. But yes, I think we will see Shanahan being conservative early, much like 2019, and that worked out well. We started out 8-0, regardless of the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo's stats were nothing to be proud of to start that year. Shanahan had to earn the trust with Jimmy. Jimmy had to earn the trust with Shanahan. He was just coming back from that knee injury. He had missed the entirety of the 2018 season. Shanahan wasn't sure what he was capable of doing. That sounds familiar with the transition to Trey Lance. You could imagine Shanahan leaning on that defense, leaning heavily on that run game, and that could lead to some closer games towards the end than we want to see. The Camper Report coming in to say, what's up, Rob? What's up, Ben? How you doing? We need to get back on the same page, make a collab happen. Apologies for not making that happen until now. Patrick Garcia says, Rob, how is Chicago's defensive line? Chicago's defense is not one that I'm terribly worried about. I would say it's a tough unit to really assess at this point because of the changes that they've seen, the overhaul on the roster, but I'm not expecting much. 14 Ace Windu says, Rob Schuh, do you think we see Jimmy at least once a game? No. I think we only see Jimmy in case of injury and significant blowout. Because even in a blowout, you will hesitate to put Jimmy in because there'll be a storyline, right? They'll be talking about, oh, Jimmy got in a game. Jimmy looked good. Jimmy looked good. You just don't want to start that. You just don't want to start that. Darren Worthington, Rob, we all enjoyed watching Pettis celebrating everybody else's touchdowns. Sorry, not sorry. He's soft. He did struggle with the 49ers. I hesitate to call anyone soft that plays in the NFL. Relative to other receivers in the NFL, you could say he's softer than other receivers. That he's soft, period. I've seen some of the shots that he's taken and gotten back up. I got to give him my respect, even if I agree he's not an elite wide receiver. He's not someone I want back on the team, but I like to show a little bit of respect for the fact that he was a Niner while acknowledging that, yeah, he doesn't belong on this roster. Super Bowl Bound says, Rob, you probably don't care, but what are your thoughts of the Bears planning to get a dome stadium? I do care in that every new stadium that pops up in the NFL gives me another spot to throw a pin on that map. I've got more pins than half of the league, but I haven't been to half of the stadiums in the league because I've been to a lot of retired stadiums. I've been to Qualcomm Park in San Diego. I think that's Qualcomm. I've been to LA Coliseum. I've been to Candlestick Park. There are a couple others that I've been to that are no longer relevant NFL stadiums. So each time one opens up, it gives me a new exciting spot to hit, and I'm all about that. BK from the Bay with the question says, Rob, we definitely need to go out and sign some free agent O-line players to shore up this team. I believe it's greater reps required for those that are already in-house. It's experience that they need. It is time together. I do believe they will gel so long as we either get McGlinchey back or a suitable fill-in at right tackle. I feel okay filling in at one tackle spot. It's really tough if you're ever down two. Jason Walsh saying, Kittle's my fantasy guy. I hope you're right, Rob. I believe it. I believe it, and I say go heavy on George Kittle because he's a value in my book when I look at those top 3 or 4 tight ends. G-Bone Patron, Rob, does Kinlaw get a sack this week? Well, earlier we had hinted at potentially 4 sacks. I think Kinlaw is going to come fired out of a cannon this season. So I say yes. I say Kinlaw does, in fact, get a sack to start this one. Camper Report saying, love to see how your channel's grown, Rob. Appreciate that, Ben. Absolutely thrilled with the channel growth, thrilled with going into this second year, excited for new and bigger things to come this season. Keep your eyes out. Paul H. Rob Schuh, I do not let the temperature ruin my enjoyment of hot coffee. Coffee is necessary, Paul. It is the spirit of life, if you will. Archie coming in. Rob Schuh, it's 115 today. I'm melting and unenjoyable, but I think Ayuk will have a big year. I agree. That's my other fantasy sleeper from the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, both great values for me. All right, I'm going to come back into the chat after this one in just a moment. Russell James says, Rob Schuh, I bet the Niners run a lot and many mouths to feed for Kittle to get to 1,000. It's got my vote, though. Don't you think those two factors will keep Skittles' numbers down? it's a fair point that the run game should be leaned on heavily throughout this season. There are a lot of mouths to feed. I do believe that short passing game will favor the tight ends and Debo, and that should lead to higher numbers for Kittle. I also predict that Lance will have himself a good year. Not a fantastic statistical year, but a good one. All right, I'm going to be back into the chat in just a moment. See a good one from EMA Beats. I'm going to get to that as soon as I get back into the chat. Let's now go to another one from Notorious GAV coming in to predict the season stats for Jeff Wilson Jr. All right, Jeff Wilson Jr. here. Let's say we're getting scientific on this one here, Gav. His best year, Jeff Wilson Jr.'s best year, 2020. He played in 12 games, carried the ball 126 times for 600 yards at 4.8 yards per carry with 7 rushing touchdowns. Now, I've predicted that this year's rushing stats come together much closer to the 2019 effort, wherein you had a three-headed monster when you got to the end of the year. It was divvied up more so in the beginning of the year to Breida and Coleman, and then more so to Mostert and Coleman towards the end of the year. But at the end, the carries, the stats, not the touchdowns, the carries and the stats were pretty freaking close. The carries and the yards were pretty freaking close. And I'm predicting it's going to be closer to that. Here's what it was in 2019. Mostert, 137 attempts, 772 yards, 5.6 yards average, 8 touchdowns. Breida, 123 carries, 623 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Coleman, also 137 carries, 544 yards, much lower, 4 yard per carry average, and 6 rushing touchdowns. So I think that this year's offense is even heavier towards the run than 2019 was. So I'm going to say an estimate of 142 carries for Wilson. And I'm staying close to his 2020 average with a slight uptick because I do believe this is going to be a potent rushing attack and a nice round number at 4.9 yards per carry. Doing the math there, that's going to work out to 696 yards for Wilson. I'm saying he's going to be the leading rusher. That has been my prediction. So 696 yards will be the leading rusher for the Niners. I know that's not a whole hell of a lot. I do believe we'll see 2 others close to that. But I'm saying he's not the leader in touchdowns. I'm giving TDP the lead in touchdowns with 8. But I think Jeff gets real close with 7 rushing touchdowns on the year. I'm throwing in a stat line of 11 catches for 114 yards and 1 receiving score to boot with that. So 8 total touchdowns for Jeff Wilson Jr. and just over 800 yards from scrimmage. I think it will be, again, a committee approach to this year's running back. All right, we got one more final previously submitted question, but I'm coming back into the chat to get involved with what you guys are talking about here, because that's what I want to get into. All right. EMA Beats was talking about this one. It says, Rob Schuh, remember what Womack told Kyle once he got drafted? You got you a dog, coach. Sam Woe lie detector shows that was true. I'm telling you. Sam Womack is the truth when it comes to confident young cornerbacks, especially ones that can play the nickel. It will be intriguing to see how he plays the run. Certainly, that was a strength for the Shark, K'Wan Williams. He lost a step in coverage. How will Sam Womack step up there? Dan Rostek coming in. Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, do you think they should extend Mosley? I do. I would love to have 2 quality corners. We have shown ourselves time and time again that is necessary, and the rest of that defense has been compiled. Let's now add the final pieces. Sign Mosley. Draft a couple of young safeties next year if you're not going to extend Jimmy Ward, or at least one if Huff ends up being the guy this year. Finalize that freaking defense because it is so close to elite. Ekim with the food advice for Chicago, and I'm here for it. Says, Rob, get the Italian beef and sausage sandwich with hot giardia. I can never say that stuff, but I know what it is at Portillo's in Chicago. For a guy who can pronounce a lot of things, that one, get out of here. Get out of here. All right, Starco Fan 212. Thank you for that, Ekim, by the way. Starco Fan 212, Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, what do you think of that one Bears player saying that we will regret taking Lance over Fields? I believe the proof will be in the pudding. I still have faith in Lance, absolute faith in Lance. What I've seen with Fields so far, he may have the talent, but he's going to have a hard time expressing it there in Chicago. Maybe this year are the changes needed to begin to support him as a young quarterback. Until I see it, I won't believe it. What I do know is Trey Lance is in a phenomenal position for success. Jamie Bryant says, Rob, how you doing? I'm good. Life is life. Life is full of ups and downs. I've been through my fair share of downs over the past 12 months or so. Life has presented its challenges, presented its opportunities. I attempt to stay positive. I attempt to stay grateful throughout the tough times. It's not always easy. Sometimes I struggle with that. Sometimes I get down on myself. I try to be kind to everyone around me. I try to extend that to me. That's harder for me to do. It's easier for me to be nice to you than it is to be nice to myself. That's an odd conundrum, but I'm working at it. Other than that, I'm excited for football season and the upcoming game. And these travels to go see the Niners are going to absolutely continue to lift my spirits. I appreciate you asking. Mason coming in. Rob Schuh, what are the odds Kyle brings in Jimmy to throw the first touchdown pass of the season to make up for last year? It would be funny as hell. I almost said funny as F, because obviously that's what happened. Trey Lance came in the beginning of last year, threw that touchdown pass. Everyone thought it was a sign of what was to come, and it really wasn't. It would be a nightmare if that happened this year. I don't think even Kyle wants that smoke. I don't think he wants to bring that smoke on himself. Gold-blooded says, hola, Rob. Prediction for the game. Lance to Gray for a deep one early in the game. Book it. I love it. And my prediction is Niners are winning this one by more than 7. I believe I predicted it was 11. I believe that was my official prediction. Niners win by 11. I haven't given a score prediction yet. That will come later in the week on one of the shows. Quesadilla Thrilla 71 Sneakerhead here on the channel doing the good work, saying hit their like button, meaning the like button. But when you're yelling, sometimes it comes out as there. And, sometimes you got to say there, over there, right? Over her, over there. I'm just messing with Quesadilla Thrilla. He knows I like to play around. All right, BK from the Bay. Rob, you put out great content and have great enthusiasm about football. Keep it up. Good work. Thank you. I am very enthusiastic about football, wildly enthusiastic about the Niners. Some people think I'm crazy. Those people would be correct, sir. Thomas Luttrell, Rob Schuh, finish the sentence. The addition of Danny Gray makes Jennings. The addition of Danny Gray makes Jennings' role that much easier because he's going to clear the top off of the defense. That's what he's going to do. He's going to open up this offense, and a pass catcher like Jauan Jennings, who is great at creating separation, as Kyle Shanahan and others of the offense have told us repeatedly this offseason, is going to feast underneath. Just needs to work on those elite hands. And I disagree with Can You Dig It? I don't think Jauan Jennings is expendable at all. I think he is a grown-ass man that plays football the way we want him to. Jaguayo 56 coming in with the super chat saying, Rob, I want you to have a great time and get us a win. I will, and I'll continue going to those road games so long as those wins keep coming. I will be eating glorious stadium food. I hope that before the start of the game, I'm able to find some Niners fans tailgating in the parking lot. Maybe they offer me some delicious sustenance as well. Whatever goodies they're grilling up in the parking lot, I'm all over it. And that's the content I want to bring to you guys as well. Hopefully some lighthearted humor and some food stuff. Ellis10 Sneakerhead here on the channel says, I just wanted to say hello and go Niners. Ellis10, appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you for coming in. Always want to get to those super chats. Just saw another one drop in. Chris Royal, Sneakerhead here on the channel with the super chat saying, you're a damn good dude. My family is glad we met you. Just remember, when you're not so hot on yourself, my girls ask for your autograph. Boss, Chris, cheers to you and the family. Had a blast there in Salem. Can't wait to watch a game with you this season. Can't wait to see you in Seattle. I know we're both going to try and get to that game. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the kind words as well. Really does mean a great deal. All right, Little Beastie to Goat says, Rob Schuh, I finished my fantasy draft today. Did you get any Niners? That's the relevant information that we need dropped into the chat. Please do let me know. 14 Ace Windu says, Rob Schuh, better chance of 2 1,000-yard receivers or rushers. Receivers, I'm calling it. It's Ayuk and Kittle. Ayuk and Kittle are our 2,000-yard receivers. I have put my reputation on the line. I'm just kidding. I don't have that much of a reputation there, so I'm not risking all that much by putting it on the line. All right, let's see. Looking for James Schaefer coming in, says, Rob, what do you think of a multiple mobile quarterback scheme with 2 rotating $10 million per year players versus the normal single? Fascinating. The problem becomes once they know their value, once they know it's a new system, like, are they willing to take $10 million a year? I suppose if you get 2 guys on rookie contracts, you could keep it cost controlled. That feels like a major change, and major change seems to rarely happen within the NFL. It's sort of an old school, old boys clubs. Even innovation tends to happen. Like, it's very rare you get a wildcat formation coming in, and this feels akin to the introduction of the wildcat. I would say seems unlikely. But you could get a creative GM out there who says to himself, hell, I can't afford one of these elite quarterbacks. I'd rather invest in multiple less expensive ones. But the old adage of you have 2 starting quarterbacks, you have no starting quarterbacks seems to hold true. Darren Worthington, Rob, in 115-degree heat out in the man cave because the electricity is out. Thank God my iPad was fully charged. Trust me, bro, you have fans. I think a cold beer in this heat is priceless. I would, at 115, yes, absolutely. I would guess that a cold beer would be worth more than it typically would at 115 degrees. You got to drink it quickly, though, because the fridge is not going to stay cold for long at that temperature. Dan, I'm with you on this. 49ers content is better than Netflix. Amen to that. Amen to that. Ooh, if Russell James is correct on this, spread's only 6.5. The hypothetical that was presented to me was at 7, and I haven't checked to see if the line moved or if it was at 6.5. Definitely I was taking the over on 7. I'm definitely taking it on 6.5. Little Beastie says, what's the biggest concern for the Niners this year? Said it earlier, but I'm going with the offensive line. Quesadilla Thriller, you know I'm joking. He says, Rob, sorry about the typo. Driving back from the beach with the wife. Yes, I know you're joking, LOL. Hey, I hope you guys had a great time at the beach. I hope it was cool out there at the coast and that it's not too hot wherever you are, because people in Cali seem to be dealing with the heat. Jamie Bryant, Rob, you're a real one. Keep pushing forward. Take time for yourself. Think positive, but glad you're doing okay. 49ers, bang, bang. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. Again, anytime someone shows, genuine concern for another human being, it makes them a good person in my book. And so I always want to take time to thank people who check on one another, whether that's me or someone in the chat or a fellow 49er faithful or hell, a fan of another team. They're still a human being. So I appreciate the care. And I just got to say, this channel seems to attract people who also believe in positivity, and even people who I've seen in other spaces be a little more negative tend to act more positively here. I take pride in trying to maintain that atmosphere, and I thank all of you because it's really you who help me maintain that atmosphere. It's you who are here in the chat that keep it positive, and I vibe with that. Super Bowl bound. Rob, did you play any sports when you were young? Yes, I was in Pop Warner football. So I was a little kid, right? I was young for my grade. By the time I graduated high school, I was only 17. So I was always like the youngest kid in my class. And I was a littler kid until later in life. Now I'm 6'1", like pretty average size, but used to be small for my age and got into Pop Warner football. That was a mistake. Little white kid out there in Pop Warner football, not fully developed, not super masculine. It was like junior peewee, I think. And my only claim to fame, which isn't a real claim to fame, was I played alongside James. God, why am I blanking? The actor, James Franco. He was Teddy Franco back then. Went to high school with him later on, but we used to carpool to Pop Warner. And yes, also played soccer and baseball. But by the time I got into high school, my extracurricular activities either bordered on less healthy or were car-based. I was spending a lot of time rebuilding the engine on my 1969 Pontiac GTO with a 455 cubic inch big block. Little Beastie the Goat says, Rob Schuh, I got Trey Lance at my bench quarterback and Deebo Samuel as your flex. Those are solid. That sounds like a good league. Sounds like a deep team. All right, continuing on with those in the chat. Got one more previously submitted question, but I will continue answering the questions here in the chat as well. Rob Schuh, did you hear about the possible Jimmy Ward extension? I'm all in. How do you feel? He's a staple in my opinion, like Joe, though Joe is a one of one. Ward is the longest tenured Niner, a loyal one. Are you thinking of Joe Staley on that one? That feels like because he was the longest tenured Niner on the offense. That would seem like an apropos comparison there. I am all in on the extension of Jimmy Ward. I've not heard a peep on it yet, so I may have missed anything that came out recently about it. I would absolutely sign that, especially with the rest of this defense being solid. Lock down Jimmy Ward for a few more years. He's not recognized as the elite safety that I think he contributes as on this defense specifically. So he doesn't have to be compensated for how much value he actually provides to this defense. I think that makes him a steal. I would absolutely extend him. Jaguayo 56 with the super chat. Rob, what's the update on McGlinchey's health? I've gotten nothing substantial, nothing of substance to offer at this point. Again, this is my speculation. This is my PTSD in dealing with injuries. My fear that this will be an ongoing issue for Mike McGlinchey. The platelet-rich injection was one thing. If that's it, that's all we hear of it, maybe I'm overblowing this. But again, saw one clip of a substantial limp for McGlinchey, and it gave me a panic attack. So I need to see him out there on the field before I truly believe that he's all good. Ellis 10 Sneakerhead here on the channel says, this is 100% my favorite channel. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Ellis. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support. It means a great deal. Starco Fan 212. Rob Schuh, what do you think of Nate Sudfeld being cut over Brock Purdy? Once Jimmy Garoppolo became the backup, and I do believe that the intention is to, unless they get an overwhelming offer, keep Jimmy Garoppolo as the backup for the entirety of the season, I think then it was very logical to go with Purdy because your third quarterback should be a developmental quarterback. Brock Purdy is very much a developmental quarterback, high upside for him. May not make it into being what you need as a starter, might be a suitable backup. That would be phenomenal to have a suitable backup on a rookie contract, especially a rookie contract where you are Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the draft, the cheapest rookie contract you could have for a drafted player, for a rookie quarterback. That would be phenomenal. So again, when it was the third string quarterback that we were talking about, Purdy was the obvious choice in my book. You couldn't go with Sudfeld. He's not developing. He is what he is, feels like a potential capable backup. Wish him the best. Quesadilla Thrilla says, Rob, with the O-line woes, do you think Kittle will be more of a blocker or safety valve? There were O-line woes last year, and Kittle, the rate at which he had to stay in and block, I thought it was going to be up because his numbers were down, but it actually wasn't. He was running more pass plays last year than the year prior, and so I think it'll be pretty consistent for George Kittle. He will get his attempts, and again, Lance seems to be favoring him in some of those shorter throws, favoring the tight ends. So I would look for Kittle to get those opportunities. Little Beastie to Goat says, Rob Schuh, I have had a ton of downs this year, but you have helped me so much. Love the videos. Thank you for that. That also means a lot to know that anyone derives inspiration or positive vibes from the video. That really does. That means a lot because I do know that as human beings, even on the internet where we think we're freaking anonymous, we can influence each other's mental health. And we're all going through enough right now. I don't need to layer onto that and make your lives harder. I can do the opposite. I can actually try to help people out. And in return, they do the same for me. It's miraculous. And I just try to preach it without sounding preachy. Super Bowl Bound says, Rob, you're almost at 7,000 subscribers. Congrats. Thank you. Trying to cross that bridge. I'm hoping by the end of this season to hit 15K. That's the goal. 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And I got some plans in place that I hope will help me get there. Starco Fan 212, Rob Schuh, I probably should recharge my Chromebook because in California, we just got a flex alert. Yeah, I'm hearing that power is out in some of those areas. Yeah, people know my story enough that they were filling in James Franco's last name. I freaking love that. Yeah, it was James Franco. USMC 49er says, Rob, I need you to please explain why Jack, who says he supports Trey, would post an interception today when O'Neal and Sermon was on the team. What was his point? You're level-headed. I believe that Jack's point, well, first and foremost, I cannot speak for Jack. I think in order to truly get Jack's perspective on it, you have to ask him. I will say that I believe Jack to be very supportive of Trey. I also believe Jack to be most interested in reporting what it is he actually believes he is seeing out there on the field. And I know from talking to Jack that what he has seen there with Trey, as many of us have seen with some video evidence, whether we put stock into it or not, we have seen some accuracy issues, some accuracy inconsistency on particular throws. And I don't think that's unreasonable to point that out. I get what you're saying, that by posting a particular video that it may seem to highlight one particular narrative. But again, what I know of Jack is his interest in presenting both sides of the issue. And he does attempt to provide a complete picture with context. However, in order to get that context, you do have to tune into a longer stream of his so that it gives time for that explanation. I think people see the shorter quips on Twitter, the videos being posted, and maybe link that with some other narratives that may be floating around out there. But again, I find Jack to be very fair in his coverage. Just my take on it. All right, Darren Worthington says, Rob, trust me, I'm drinking beer as fast as I can before it gets hot. There you go. Get down those cold ones. All right, James Schaefer says, Rob, it's okay. My childhood sports story is similar, but claim to fame is playing with Chris McAllister, Ravens corner, coached by his dad. I'm telling you, that is that's a better claim to fame than my James Franco claim to fame. All right. I see a little bit of trash talk in the chat. If it stays lighthearted, I'm good with that. But if it goes any harder than that, there's a timeout coming. Craftwork Concrete says, Rob, Steve Young texted me recommending I get a Bane test. Should I ignore him? I have no idea what that means. Russell James says, Rob, I'm concerned about the current injury Jimmy Ward has sustained. How much of a risk would the extension be considering that? It seems like a soft tissue injury. Generally not something that's going to concern me unless it's a repetitive issue, and I don't believe he's had some of those. Look at this. This is a good. Hector says, get a Tesla Powerwall for your home and you'll never lose power. It's that simple. LOL. I used to work for Tesla. That's actually true. You got to have a lot of coin to put up the Powerwall on the home. Not that much. You can make it happen. I'm not trying to get in Tesla's way of selling Powerwalls. Might be. We'll see. I am a fan of the Tesla Powerwall, even though I have some mixed feelings about some other things in regard to that. But yes, solar, Tesla Powerwall, powerful combination. You might never run out of power if you get the right setup because you just keep recharging it with the sun. I'm telling you, this is smart. All your neighbors will be out. Now, you may not be able to run your AC, but your fridge will still be going. All right, Starco Fan 212 says, Rob Schuh, I think we have 1 or 2 spots left in the practice squad. Who do you hope to sign? Can't name anybody off the top of my head, but hopefully an O-line member. I think we filled them up. Off the top of my head, it was 2 of the guys that we brought in for workouts. I don't have that right in front. Oh, yes, I do. Buddy Johnson and Leroy Watson were the last 2 on the practice squad. So I do believe that it's currently full. The Stiver Show 209 says, Rob, I live in California. Is hot in the state of California. 112 degrees in Oakdale, California. I'm ready for 49ers football. Kicks off against the Chicago Bears. September 11th. I'll be there in Chi-Town, and I hope the heat wave ends for you soon. Troy coming in to say, Rob, you see I'm an 8-month supporter. You are great, my friend. I wish I got those alerts of the number of months. I didn't, but thank you for calling it out, and thank you for the support, Troy. Absolutely have enjoyed some of our exchanges as we have talked about the Niners. Appreciate your support. Appreciate you being here for the long haul. Lizard King 07 says, Rob, it's been a while since I've listened to your videos, but my question is, what do you think about Trey Lance at this point in time? Also, glad to be back. I'm glad to see a lot of familiar faces. We're getting back to the regular season, and I assume that we will see a bunch of new faces coming back around that were here last year, but take the offseason off like normal, reasonable human beings, not like, incessant 49er faithful that are insane like myself. No, it's perfectly reasonable to be coming back around this time of year. What do I think of Trey Lance? In short, I will say I am still high on Trey Lance. I believe that his physical tools, his aggression, his mental makeup, intellect, and the way in which he pursues perfection all give me optimism for him being able to put it all together for this team. He's also surrounded by one of the most talented rosters in the NFL, one of the most talented rosters I have ever personally witnessed, at least on paper. I expect to see them come together with an elite defense, elite run game, very good special teams, and those core pieces around Trey Lance should support him long enough to enable him to struggle while still winning football games. So remaining confident, going through his issues, working on those issues. And does it take more than a full year to get up to speed and be good enough to really propel this team to the next level? Maybe. But I think when you draft a player as young and as inexperienced as Trey Lance was, you have to acknowledge that's a real possibility. It's just a question of whether this roster is so talented that it can carry him while he's developing. Is it like Ben Roethlisberger and his early career with the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he just needs to do enough, just enough to get this team some wins? All right, Ellis10, Sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. He says, Rob, it's been 110 in the Central Valley. I've been receiving a few power blackout warnings. If I disappear, you know why. I hope it doesn't turn off, and I hope that you can, in fact, get your AC to keep running. Darren Worthington saying, I have solar, but my solar's still producing power while they shut my power off. Wow. Only if you have the Tesla Powerwall. If you don't have the Powerwall, then it has to get killed when the system goes down, so it's not feeding power back into the grid, because then it would shock the hell out of people who are coming out to repair lines. But if you have a Powerwall, then they have this disconnect to where power goes off. The disconnect disconnects you from the grid, but your system is still charging the battery. I know way too much about this. Jaguayo 56 says, Rob, gotta go, but want you to know your positive attitude helps us more than you will ever know. The faithful are lucky to have a man who keeps it 100. Jaguayo 56, appreciate you, man. You're so supportive of the channel, always so kind when we speak on Thursdays. I look forward to conversing again, breaking down the upcoming game. Thank you for joining the show today. Again, appreciate it. Troy, Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, I'm going to the home opener, my first ever 49ers game. Are you going to be there? If so, let's meet up. I don't have plans to go to Levi's this year as of yet, save for when the 49ers make the playoffs. I will be there in the playoffs. My plan is to go to as many road games as possible. Right now, trying to hit 6. The 6th one is a big question mark, going to Mexico City. We shall see on that one. If the Niners keep winning, I may have to go to every road game. That's the promise I'm making to myself. Don't have a plan for Levi's, but man, Troy, have a freaking blast there. You could go visit my brick, right? I got one there in Levi's. You could go take a picture by it. I'm just kidding. The brick is not worthy of going to take a picture by. But enjoy your time there. Hang out with the faithful. Have a good time with it. And make a memory. Make a memory. Cheese coming in. Rob, will you shave your beard if we win the Super Bowl this year? Cheese. Wow, that is a conundrum. So I have had this beer. I have had, that's a Freudian slip. I have had this beard for 15 years. 15 years. Ooh, would I shave the beard for a Super Bowl win? I don't think so, because it would be the beard that got us to the Super Bowl. So we would have to keep the luck. We would have to keep the luck going forward so that we would win, more and more Super Bowls. So the answer to that has to be no. Now, if you're saying if some higher being came to me and said, Rob, if you shave your beard, the Niners will win the Super Bowl, then I'm sorry. The beard goes. The beard goes. Hector coming in to say, my man, Rob, the electrician, definitely not a qualified electrician. Barely know what I'm talking about in that regard, but enough to get myself in trouble. Troy says, Rob, okay, sounds good, my friend. I'm 90 minutes from Denver. If you're going to that game, I am. I'm locked in on Denver. Got my hotel room, got my flight. I will be there in Denver. Dr. Jaspreet says, Rob Schuh, give Leroy Watson a tight end number so when Mike McGlinchey is out there, Watson can help block, or he can leak out and get a catch since he played tight end in college. He is a converted tight end, right? He comes to us from UTSA, the same place as Spencer Burford. Okay, I am going to answer the last question that was previously submitted. If you're still hanging with me right now and you haven't smashed that like button yet, do me a favor and hit that like button. We're going to the last question. It's a scenario that we need to decide between. It's coming in from Dan R. He says it's the bye week. Which one of these two scenarios would you rather be in? All right, so the way in which he's presented it, scenario number 1. Trey struggling, showing no signs of improvement. However, due to a stellar defense and run game, the 49ers eke out wins and are 6-2 at the bye. All right, scenario 1, not ideal, but there it is. There's the first one. Here's the second one. Number 2, Trey is playing well and showing steady improvement. However, due to significant injuries on defense and sloppy play by special teams and others on offense, drops, fumbles, etc., the Niners are 3-5. So basically, I'm choosing between Trey struggling and everyone else being elite, or injuries and struggles around the team, but Trey Lance is looking good, showing improvement. This is a tough one. I got to say, first and foremost, I don't like this game because I'm choosing between two not ideal situations, but I got to give credit to Dan R. That's the fun of this hypothetical where he's saying it's the bye week. Which of these two scenarios do you like? So again, I'm choosing between Trey Lance struggling and the rest of the team carrying them to a 6-2 record, or Trey Lance doing good, injuries, and the rest of the team struggling, and the Niners being 3-5. So neither is ideal. I will say my logic in this, I'm going with scenario number 1. It's probably obvious. I'm going with scenario number 1, and here's why. I think it's fair to assume that Trey will struggle at points this season. Just go into it with that expectation. He is going to struggle at points. And at the halfway point to the year, he could absolutely still turn that around. Just think back. 2019 season started very similarly. Elite defense, great run game, average to below average play by Jimmy Garoppolo. How did the Niners look? 8-0. 8-0. The combination of elite defense, run game, that can still lead us all the way in this one. And I just cannot get on board with any scenario that includes injury. I talked about the PTSD earlier, so scenario number 2 was out for me. I went with scenario number 1. Appreciate the question, Dan R. All right, if you got any last questions, now's the time. I'm going back into the chat to close this thing out before we go. All right, got to get back to where I left off. James Schaefer. Best part of you is when you hit the brakes before some negative comes out of your mouth. You could be a therapist. James, I appreciate that. Sometimes I have to catch it before it comes out. Yes, midstream, I'm like, no, let me pause there. Let me rethink that. Let me reframe it, rephrase it. I appreciate that. Darren, I certainly could talk for a living, right? Darren Worthington coming in. Rob, thank you for that. You're the best brother and a true inspiration to people. Thanks. Now drinking warm beer. That's how quickly it warmed up in that heat. Darren is hurting out there along with everybody out there at 115 degrees. Lizard King 07 says, Rob, I'm a fanatic for my Niners. I've just been working whenever you've went live, but trust me, I've been listening. I appreciate that, Lizard King, man. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Charles Alt coming in, sneakerhead here on the channel. We know the 3rd and the 4th. Rob, I'm definitely a year-round 49er faithful all day, every day, and raising my boys the same way. Hey, that is a new generation of 49er faithful that I am here for. Absolutely. Looking at Dr. Jaspreet, Rob Schuh. I wouldn't mind the Niners just drafting only offensive line, safety, tight end, interior D-line only next year. We need to invest early in these positions. Certainly could get on board with O-line, safety. They've been looking for a backup tight end for a long time. And depending upon Javon Kinlaw, yeah, you could see a need for interior defensive line as well. Certainly doesn't feel like we have replaced DJ Jones just yet. Have to have the arbitrary barbecue sauce showing anytime we talk about DJ Jones, even though he's with Denver. It's terrible. Terrible. Chris Royal coming in with super chat number 2, so we don't have to hear any Jimmy noise. Oh, going back to the scenarios, Chris is choosing number 2. Number 2 here. So just so that we don't hear the Jimmy noise. I think that the scenario that you need is number 1 then, because that's where we're 6-2. See, Chris is on board with me on that one, so that we don't hear. Oh, No, you're right, because we'd be 3-5, but it wouldn't be Trey's fault. So he is scenario number 2, but it's not Trey's fault. Trey's looking good. I get what you're saying there, and I think it is fair to say we don't want to hear calls for Jimmy G. That would be terrible. Marcus Torres, I like that soundbite. I like turtles. All right. Quesadilla Thrilla 71. For those that don't know, it's some soundbite from somewhere. I've heard it before. I don't know where it's from. I hope it's from a reasonable source and not something that I shouldn't have called out there. Rob, love the content and quality of your show, along with Jax. I only listen to you two now. Thank you. Appreciate you, Quesadilla Thrilla. Try to keep it positive. Try to keep it high quality. Dr. Jaspreet says, Rob Schuh, at the end of the year, what will you say about TDP? What will the stat line be? I called it earlier. He's going to lead the team in rushing touchdowns, and I will say that it wasn't a miss. It wasn't a Trey Sermon move, that it made sense to draft someone early in TDP and come back around and grab Jordan Mason. One of these times, Kyle Shanahan's going to hit on an early draft pick, and it's going to be clear why he continued to invest in them. Russell James, good call, Rob. Now, what about the scenario of offensive line struggling versus defensive line? No, the D in general struggling, or both. I would say offensive line struggling versus the D line struggling. I'm going to be more comfortable if it's the O-line that struggles. Lance is a mobile quarterback. You watched him in that last preseason game, maybe not put up a great stat line, but you did see him escape pressure, even pressure that was immediately in his face. So I think we can overcome that offensive line struggles a bit more. We need D-line to be potent and carry this team. Rick Diaz. Hey, Rob, what's going on? And an important in Oregon. In the West Coast, I'm doing okay. Hey, Rob, what's going on? And important in Oregon, in the West Coast, I'm doing okay. The Fables are ready across the country, across the world. Go Niners. I'm here for the Go Niners content. I'm all about it. I hope that you're doing okay. From the message, that's what I'm interpreting. And yeah, I'm doing okay up here in Oregon. It's hot down in California. That's what I'm taking out of it. Here we go. EMA Beats. Rob Schuh, selflessness and sacrifices. I love it. I'm here for it. Cheese. He says, Rob, how'd you end up in Oregon? Because of your job. Came up here about 10 years ago from Southern California. Have really enjoyed it. Really love it. No, I have sometimes I have the privilege of working remotely. So not a job that forces me to be up here. I just love the environment up here. How close you are to nature, being surrounded by trees. It's gorgeous. Chris comes in to say, Rob, if we're 6-2 and Trey is playing bad, people will spin that we could potentially be undefeated if Jimmy was quarterbacking. That was my thoughts. That's a very fair thought, Chris. And you're right. Even if we are at 6-2, if Trey's struggling, there will be calls for Jimmy, and I don't want to see that. Daniel says, Rob, is this our year? In my opinion, hell yes. Niners all my life, and now's the first time I know we're taking the ball. Daniel, I love the freaking confidence, and I'm here for it. I think we absolutely have a ship on the horizon as well. Russell James, Rob, wondering if you had to vote, O-line struggling versus D-line, or even the D-line in general struggling. If I had to vote, my vote would be the offensive line struggling. That is my bigger concern there. Joey Nichols says, Rob, when do you get to Chicago? Saturday, I think in the afternoon, but I have to check on that. Could be evening. I know that I have a later Saturday night dinner reservation, so I do get in some point in the evening there. And I do agree that the earlier question could have been affected. Maybe the phone was affected by heat, or we get affected by heat as well. Lapaka Lolo saying the heat's killing me, but can't wait for the season to start. 3-0 start. Let's get those. All right, Dr. Jaspreet with maybe the last one here says, Rob Schuh, how do we manage not having Jimmy Ward for 4 weeks? You think we will be okay? I do. It looked on the unofficial depth chart today. Only surprise that was on there is George Odom listed as the free safety over Tarvarius Moore. Maybe not a shocker after we watched both of them play in the preseason. This defense is good enough to make up for the loss of Ward, in particular through the first 2 weeks where we're playing easier contests against Chicago and then against Seattle at home. Tough against Denver and tough against LA. I've already predicted the Niners going 2-2 to start the season. I'm sticking with that for the time being. And therefore, I would say that I still think we can beat Chicago and we can beat Seattle without Jimmy Ward And I do believe he's back after that. If he weren't going to be back, I would have thought the Niners would have gone out and made a more permanent solution at safety. I appreciate everyone who has been here today. Thank you for being a part of this stream. To those of you that put in the questions ahead of time, whether you email me at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com or whether you follow me on Twitter at The Left Schuh and you look for that tweet that comes out Tuesday mornings and you respond with your question, or if you are here with me live in the chat asking your questions, I'm appreciative of all of you. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. If you haven't liked this video, please do like it on your way out. Please do subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification so that you'll know when I go live. And I look forward to a very, very exciting season here. Going to be a good one. I'm going to be traveling. I hope to see some of the Niner faithful on the road. I'll be back to preview the game with Randon McMahon on Between Two Beards tomorrow at 5 p.m. Thank you to everyone. Enjoy your evening as well. And until then, cheers, faithful.